Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and thank you for downloading Transcending Sport here on Wisp Sports. This is Season 2, Episode 3, and I'm Chris Stafford. You can join in the conversation anytime by following on social media and sharing amongst your community, which helps us spread the word, of course. And you'll find us anywhere at Wisp Sports. You can also reach us via email at info@wispsports.com. Transcending Sport shares the stories of women around the world who are playing their part in helping girls and women in sport in all areas, from organizations to media, charities, commerce and campaigns. Sometimes it's the smallest local initiative to the largest global effort to raise awareness and create access and opportunities for girls and women in sport. And my guest on this episode is AJ Richards, who is the founder of Women Belong in Baseball, which she formed in 2015 to support, encourage, and advocate for girls and women in all aspects of baseball, including playing, in the front office, from coaching to scouting, umpiring, managing, and in the media. AJ grew up as an avid baseball fan and dreamed of playing 3B for the Chicago Cubs. But when AJ was in 9th grade, her English teacher told her to write an essay about what she'd want to be when she grew up. So she wrote about being an MLB manager. And the teacher told her no, she couldn't do that because she was a girl. And eventually, with all the pushback, she lost interest in the sport. But years later, a friend told her about Jackie Mitchell, a 17-year-old woman who struck out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig in succession in an exhibition game. This made AJ realize that women do actually belong in baseball. So she wanted to spread the word about the women trailblazers and the opportunities that are available for girls and women in baseball. So she established a social media presence for Women Belong in Baseball. AJ is a self-described scholar, activist, and advocate, and she's currently finishing her master's thesis, I Was a Trailblazer, the Baseball Playing Experiences of Girls. Hi, AJ. Welcome, and thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Hi, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, we found you on social media, good old social media. And when I see things like Women Belong in Baseball, I get curious as to, okay, what's this organization about and who's behind it? So I know it was formed in 2015, so you've been around for a few years. How did it come about?
It was kind of interesting. I was a huge baseball fan growing up, and I kind of fell away from it, lost interest in it. And one of the big reasons was there was clearly no future in baseball, I thought, for, a girl like me who loved baseball. And I remember in 9th grade, we were given an assignment to write about what we wanted to be when we grew up. And the first time my paper was about being a baseball coach, baseball manager, and I was told, nope, you can't do that. You're a girl. You need to rewrite the paper. So I wrote about being a broadcaster for baseball in the booth. And once again, I was told, you can't do that because you're a girl. So I rewrote it a third time about being a umpire. And once again, I was told, nope, those are, you don't see any women on the baseball field as umpires. And so I got really frustrated. And then in 2015, a friend sent me a link to a story about Jackie Mitchell, who in 1931, she was a 17-year-old young woman, and she pitched against the New York Yankees in an exhibition game. And she struck out Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio consecutively. And I thought, wow, I've been a baseball fan for so long and I've never heard about this. How many other people are there out there who have never heard about this? And reading the article, it just kind of prompted an exchange between a friend and I, and we started saying, women really do belong in baseball. And so that's where the idea for the social media presence was born, just trying to help spread some awareness.
Well, you certainly have done that then, and then the time you've been around. But you said you've always been a baseball fan, have you? Did you play yourself at all?
I did not. I saw my older brother's friends in their awesome little league uniforms. They look like little major league players, and I said I want to play. And I was told, oh no, you need to, girls play softball, boys play baseball. And so I ended up playing softball. And I enjoyed softball, but it wasn't the same. And we didn't have neat little uniforms that made us look like little major leaguers. We just had a t-shirt and that was it. And when I got into high school, during the practices, the coach kept yelling at me, "This is softball, not baseball," because he thought I was playing with the baseball style. So I ended up leaving the team.
And I guess that actually has been a common problem, because you think of women over here, if you grow up in the system, you have access to softball, of course. That's very much a women's sport, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine that hurdle could exist. I mean, it doesn't seem to be beyond the realms of possibility when you think of the cultural differences back then. But and then you had those hurdles to cross over. And once you did, or do you feel that you've done that now? Do you think that women have achieved that?
There's still progress to be made. I think they are changing. There are about 100,000 girls playing baseball in the United States, but one of the biggest hurdles is when they reach the age of 12 or 13. And that's when the pressure is really on to switch to softball. And some girls switch to softball and they find they really enjoy playing softball. But unfortunately, a lot of girls, that really creates a problem for them, and it's heartbreaking. I'm working on a master's thesis, so I've been interviewing women who played baseball as girls, and time again, I'm hearing playing baseball was the happiest time of my life. So you can imagine you're engaged in something that brings you immense joy, and then you reach 12 or 13 and you're told you can't play anymore. That's absolutely heartbreaking.
Absolutely. And it's sad that you still hear about that today, that, there isn't the equality that there should be in baseball. What are the fundamental differences between the two? For those of us who were not educated in the US and didn't grow up with these sports, just describe, basic baseball, softball 101. What are the fundamental differences and why there would be that discrepancy?
First of all, the softball is much larger, and it really isn't that soft for anybody who's ever been plunked with a softball. Softball originated kind of as an accident during the 19th century. It was originally started as a way to play baseball indoors when it was cold. And then eventually it evolved into being considered a woman's game, although there are softball leagues across the United States that men and boys play in. Another major difference is pitching. In baseball, the ball is pitched overhand from a mound, and in softball, it's pitched underhand from a flat surface.
And very fast too.
Yes. And another major difference is there is a significantly shorter distance between the pitching rubber in softball and home plate. So that means a much shorter reaction time. And that's a big part of the reason why you see softball players wearing helmets with cages on them, because they do have so much, less time to respond. And then also the distance between the base paths is shorter in softball. Some people like softball better because it is a faster paced game, because it is on a smaller field, so the distance to the fences is shorter. Part of the problem with that is that that also reinforces the notion that women and girls are not as good of athletes as men and boys, and so they need to play on a smaller field. And that's very problematic. And you see that in different sports as well. For instance, with tennis, women in professional tennis play the best out of 3 sets, while men play the best out of 5. which is interesting since women really have excelled in endurance sports. So an athlete that's trained to play 5 sets, it doesn't matter what their gender is, they can do it.
Absolutely. Yep, that's been the case for a very long time, of course. What do you think the main obstacles, why was the resistance there in among men in baseball? Was it a case of, if you can't see it, you can't be it for girls, and there were not the role models, there wasn't the visibility, or is it just some kind of traditional culture there within baseball for men, and that they felt proprietorial about the sport?
It is very difficult to address, and it's something that it's not going to happen overnight because it is so culturally embedded. It is a part of our culture. If you look at the beginning of baseball, it was very much promoted, especially during the 19th century, as the American sport. And that's where the whole Abner Doubleday creation myth came from, that it was a very uniquely American sport. And it was also very much used as there was a huge number of immigrants coming to the United States at that time. And baseball was seen as a way to Americanize newly arrived immigrants. And then it was also promoted, and you see this in the writings of Albert Spalding, who was one of the most influential people in the early days of baseball, using very warlike terms to describe baseball and very masculine terms. It is a manly sport. And so all of that came together, and at the same time, at that time there was this frailty myth. Colette Dowling wrote a wonderful book called The Frailty Myth, where people really did believe that women should not participate in sports because they needed to direct all of their energy and resources towards being mothers and giving birth. And that if they engaged in sports, they might become infertile. That's what people actually believed. So we see that there has definitely been an evolution in the way we think. And with Title IX, the participation numbers of girls and women in sports skyrocketed, which is fabulous. But we definitely still have some residual social constructs in our culture that are serving to enforce and preserve these inequalities.
Now, what kind of challenges are you facing then with the work you're doing with Women Belong in Baseball then? Obviously, you've got quite a good social media presence and you're out there advocating for girls and women in sport, in baseball. What are the main challenges that you're facing today then, AJ?
One is just that built in the cultural stereotypes. It's always challenging to break those down. And people just are a social construct is essentially something, 101 sociology, something that people agree to and then put into action. But it happened, the agreement was reached, so long ago that people just think this is just the way things are. And their minds don't even think to challenge that or think differently. And so that's tough. And we get a lot of messages. We're primarily advocacy and awareness. We do get a lot of messages from parents who, their daughter reaches 12, 13, and they're being told you can't play baseball. And so we are very fortunate to have a network of parents who have already been through this with their daughters, and also lawyers, people who have legal expertise, so that we can direct these parents that are facing this and these girls in a direction to help empower them to advocate for their daughters with athletic departments and so forth, and recreation leagues, so that their daughters can continue playing.
Now, explain the kind of things that you're doing as part of your advocacy and your activist work then, AJ. And what does that look like? What would you like people to be aware of?
Well, we do have a Facebook page, and we're on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we post a lot about what girls and women are currently doing in baseball. We'll post about a girl who is the first person in her high school to ever make the varsity baseball team, for instance. We share information about the Women's Baseball World Cup. Very few people in the United States know that we have a USA women's national baseball team. And the Women's Baseball World Cup has been played since 2004, every 2 years. And this year it's going to be played in Mexico, and the American team looks very strong. So we post about that. We'll share links to how they can watch the games during the tournament. We also share information about opportunities to play. There's an organization called Baseball for All that has been hosting an all-girls national, really it's an international, baseball tournament for 5 or 6 years now. And, you know, we also posted about local organizations. Some names that come to mind are the DC Girls Baseball Organization, the Pawtucket Slaterettes, their teams in Chicago and Minnesota and several on the West Coast. And we'll share information about their free practices that they offer and different events that they're doing to give people an opportunity to make those connections. And we also will do some research. I'm a graduate student, so that's what I do. And we'll let people know, you know, hey, like last summer, we looked at every Major League Baseball team, and we looked specifically at how many women they employ in baseball operations. And we found that there are teams that employ 0 women in baseball operations. And I mean, just almost every team employs less than 1% of their baseball operations staff are women. And so we also want to bring awareness to this and let people know that, hey, this is the reality. Teams will post and say, you know, yes, we are in favor of gender diversity, but they almost exclusively only employ women in traditional pink-collar jobs, not as coaches, not as scouts. And so we share that, and we share information about things that organizations are doing to give women an opportunity to receive training to be a baseball scout. So really, you know, we do a lot of different things because we know that we have a diverse audience, and we want to do as much as we can to help people make those connections and encourage and inspire girls and women to pursue their dreams.
Do you see women covering as journalists reporting on baseball games at all there, AJ?
Right now, there's only one woman, Jessica Mendoza with ESPN, who is a full-time play-by-play broadcaster for Major League Baseball. There are some women on different Major League Baseball teams that are employed as sideline reporters, for instance. And there are 6 women in all of minor league baseball, who are currently working as broadcasters. And so there is a huge void there. And of course, there's no good reason why women can't do that job. Although when Jessica Mendoza started with ESPN, there was tremendous backlash. Some of the things people were saying was, you know, I don't want to hear about my baseball game, you know, from a woman. You know, just some really crazy stuff like that. But I think that's to be expected. And as more women become broadcasters, it becomes normalized, and people get used to it, and it's no big deal. So we just have to keep, you know, pushing and keep breaking those glass ceilings and glass walls.
It certainly is an uphill struggle, isn't it? And, you know, can't imagine it's 2020 and you're still facing those kind of hurdles just to convince the opposite sex that women belong in baseball.
It's challenging, but it's also fantastically exciting and rewarding because there's so much possibility there. We have announced this year the New York Yankees, and The other team is slipping my mind right now. I feel bad about that. But two major league organizations have hired women for the very first time. The Chicago Cubs is the second team. The New York Yankees hired Rachel Balkovec as a hitting coach for their minor league teams. And then the Chicago Cubs hired Rachel Folden as a coach in minor league baseball as well. And that is a first. So it is challenging, but it's also very exciting because we are making progress. And that really is a signal that we can't let up. Since we're making progress, we really have to keep their feet to the fire and keep pushing.
Absolutely. Now, tell everybody how they can find out more about your organization there, AJ, and how they can follow you on social media.
Sure. We are on Facebook, Women Belong in Baseball, and you can like the page and follow along. We are on Twitter, and our handle is at WomenBaseball1. That is also our Instagram handle, and then we are on LinkedIn as Women Belong in Baseball. And can I mention something that we're doing?
Absolutely.
We're inspired by a little girl in Ontario named Ashlyn. A video went viral last summer of her making some amazing catches in the outfield. And Ashlyn had been told that she couldn't play baseball because she's a girl. The video went viral and she ended up playing in the Baseball for All Nationals tournament with all girls on all girl teams. And so we're having a video contest. The deadline is February 21st. We're asking people to send us 30 to second length videos with the theme of girls and women in baseball. And so get creative with it. We have some great prizes to give away, and we're hoping to receive a lot of entries.
Okay, well, that sounds like something people can get involved with. Well done. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show there, AJ, and share what you're doing with Women Belong in Baseball. The very best of luck, and do keep us appraised and share any news with us on Wisp Sports, because we'd love to help you to share the story.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Hi, my name is Angelica Delgado, and I am an American judoka competing in the under 52 kilogram division for the United States. I am a proud WISP ambassador. I believe women in sports is extremely important, teaches young women from a young age to believe in themselves, to have great self-confidence, and especially this Olympic movement. You can see great athletes such as Simone Biles, Kayla Harrison, for example, Marty Malloy, which is also a friend of mine. These are great female role models, strong women in sports. My social media account is at Juji, Juji_Angie, ANGIE. And I just want to thank you so much for listening.
You can find links to the Women Belong in Baseball social media on our show notes accompanying this episode. That's all at wisports.com. Just go to the Listen tab on the top menu there and drop down to Transcending Sport. Of course, you can follow us too on social media at Wisp Sports and reach us here at info@wisports.com. And if you know of any stories that you feel we should be covering about women and girls in sport anywhere in the world, then please do let us know. We want to hear about your girls' clubs, your associations, any organization that is helping elevate and give access to girls and women in sport. And especially this year, we are focusing on youth in sport. So please do contact us at info@wisports.com. Until the next time, thank you for listening and helping us to turn up the volume on women's sports.